Okay, as in go? This is Forktales, a podcast that feeds the restaurant world. If you like what we're feeding you, please follow us on your podcast service of choice. And do give us a 5-star review. Think of it as a tip for good service. Everyone, and today I'm joined by Justin Bartek. You probably remember our episode from early on in the Forktales days. I had to have him back because so much has changed since then. Justin, why don't you say hello and give us a little update on where you've been and where you are now?
Yeah, man. It's good to see you, Joseph, as always. In the past few months, about 5 months ago now, I joined Dog Haus Worldwide, which is hot dog brand, but we do smash burgers, hot dogs, gourmet sausages, breakfast burritos that are actually killing it, and more. So it's very exciting to be over here. I've sort of been put in a position to help with those virtual brands that they have called the Absolute brands. But I'm also, there's always so much to do that I've been helping with my own connections and background to all across the organization. So it's been great.
That's awesome. So for those that don't remember, you used to be at the ramen company, Jinya. I still go there, still love their ramen. And as you said, now you're in this new position. Jinya is a brick and mortar. It's full service. Well, it's actually fast casual. Technically, there's counter service. You sit down, you're kind of waited on. Whereas Dog Haus and especially the virtual brand world, completely different. So how has this transition gone for you? And what are some of the biggest challenges in shifting from this company that you're at now, from Jinya, as well as the format shift?
Yeah, sure. When I came here, it's kind of a great time to be here. And that, when the Dog Haus brand started, it started in 2010 as well, same as Jinya. But they were kind of a fast casual brand. It wasn't really about the bar. Yeah, they had beer. They didn't have full liquor licenses at the time. They didn't have the Dog Haus beer garden concept. It was just Dog Haus. So that's kind of our legacy brand at this point. And you could imagine a Dog Haus like that might be in an old Taco Bell, like the old school Taco Bell that from the 70s. That building, though, that's where a Dog Haus could be. Now, got Dog Haus beer gardens. They've got full liquor licenses. They've got patios. They've got games. They've got, just much more of a bar experience. So since I've been over here, we've been talking about how to make this brand more bar friendly. How do we make it better? How do we increase the happy hour? How do we put in new drinks? How do we, we're really going through that top to bottom and really, have a beverage committee now. We're working with our drink partners like Coca-Cola, but we're also looking at the alcohol brands and kind of trying to do some bigger things. We're doing milkshakes, which we're going to do some spiked ones coming up, which is really cool. So all these things are in development, and we're sort of that brand that's known for really if we get an idea, maybe we'll make a virtual brand out of it. Maybe we'll put it on our menu, we'll see. But they've been doing that over time, and it's led to a lot of success.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, it's a completely different format. Even within Dog Haus, it sounds like you guys are really evolving and iterating and learning. What's interesting to me is this more immersive experience that you're talking about with the beer garden. It's nothing new, but shifting from the traditional idea and bringing this in, but then thinking about Dog Haus is building this fame around that experience, but virtual doesn't offer it. So how are you bridging that gap? How do you bring that fun and that immersiveness and that uniqueness that Dog Haus has into these virtual brands that may be inextricably linked for people?
Yeah, it's funny. We've got these quirky names like Badass Breakfast Burritos, for instance, or Jailbird, which is our wings. Just different ideas like that. But what I've found, what it really comes down to, and I don't want to talk negative about any competitors, but what it is. It's like you got these brands that might have a celebrity at the helm or just their name is slapped on it. The food quality is not there. People know right away. What we've seen, we've done a ton of research on this, and really the last 6 months especially, but the idea that, Mr. Beast Burger has 800 locations, 3,000 locations, whatever that number they want to put on there. But how many reorders are they getting? After you order that one time, how many people order that again? I would say it's very small. The other thing we have going for us, in our badass breakfast burrito concept, we average selling, hundreds a day of that product, right? So it's like that's per location. Mr. Beast, we found, only sells 7 per day at the locations that they have. So even though it's a huge volume because there's 3,000 of them or whatever that number is, they're not selling a ton, per location. So what we found is that our advantage is really the quality of the food. And we really try to push that in the forefront from the operations angle, from packaging, from, getting it to a science where we know this is what sells, what's good. We know how to make it. We know how to deliver it with our partners, or, even taking that into direct delivery and that sort of thing. So that's the future. But what our advantage is the product itself, and our food really sells itself. Like, we're getting tons of repeat orders. We've got a great loyalty to the brand and affinity to the brand. So now our next challenge is like, how do we make that Dog Haus fan know about Badass Breakfast Burritos? Because it is not inside the 4 walls, right? It's not on the menu board as Badass Breakfast Burrito. Jailbird is not on the menu, right? It's all virtual. So that's our challenge, is like, how do we connect them? Or maybe do we not want to connect them, right? Like, maybe we don't need to connect them. Maybe we can license Badass Breakfast Burritos with another bigger concept and they can sell that, right? So like, there's all these ideas out there that we're working on. So there's a lot of excitement, but really I think what it's come down to is the core products and how they travel. And with this Badass Breakfast Burritos, I mean, it's doing so well. It's 20% of our sales now for across the brand. So it's just really taken off in a huge way. So for my job, it's like, what I want to do is make Badass Breakfast Burritos and or Dog Haus what you think of when you think of a breakfast burrito. And I know that's hard to do in California, but in Maryland, maybe it's easier, right? Maybe it's easier in Atlanta, like just these other places where breakfast burrito culture is not what it is. I feel like we can really plant the flag and be that, because this product tastes so good and it's really working. So
yeah, that's so much to unpack there. So for clarity purposes, the virtual concepts that you have now solely exist within Dog Haus footprints, or do you have them for other kitchens? And
yes, so we do work with both the main kitchens. So Kitchen United is obviously our close partner, but we do work with the others as well in certain instances. You know what I mean? But it's very limited. And what we've really found is this year we've sort of taken a step back from those. So like the kitchen experience, the virtual kitchens, and really dove more into our own brick and mortar and how to make the execution better from our own stores. And so even though we have 6 virtual brands, it's not like we're out here trying to get ghost kitchens for all of them. We're trying to run them from our own kitchens. And that's been sort of the focus for this year. But what's great about that is, like I said, we could turn on a new brand tomorrow, and then here's another brand. Here's a different take on it. We're always the real research in the kitchen is what is great here, because these guys love to cook, they love food, and it's like they're always inventive with that. So it's like it's a nice feeling to know they're also not scared to say, okay, here's a brand. Like, all we need is a logo and some packaging, and we got the same ingredients for the most part usually. So it's they're very adventurous when it comes to that. And then if one sticks, great. If it doesn't, we can take it away. It's not a huge investment.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think has been, I'll say scary, but I don't mean scary. I think, so in y'all's case, it makes a lot of sense. You have footprints, you have a kitchen, you can take the mitigated risk that is lower cost, all things considered. And by all things, I mean the cost of finding a location, putting an LOA down, securing it, building out, blah, 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 the list goes on.
Yep.
So that's great. But I do think that there is a misperception or misconception from a lot of folks that all it is create a fun name, throw a logo together, put some packaging together, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, see you later, and get it out there. And I think that my thinking is that it's going to lead to some of these set it and forget it brands. It's going to lead to failure. Is that something that you see, that you're seeing? Is that something that you guys are worried about?
I would say we're not worried about that. And it goes back to the product. We've tried all these brands, right? We always are like, let's try this one. Let's see this Barstool, whatever. Like, what is it? And we get the packaging, we see the food, we're like, great. It's nothing that I really would ever want to order again. And I don't want to trash anyone's brands, but like, it's just the name of the game.
Them. Come on.
But it's like, dude, like, is Barstool really spending time to do that research? Is Mr. Beast really out here testing food like that? No, he's
Hmm.
not. He doesn't have time to do that. We know that. And plus, when it's not your passion, like when I see Mario Lopez tacos, do I ever want that? No. Why is he known for tacos? No, he's known for being Latin, right? Like, so come
Right.
on, dude. Like, you're just now it's getting stereotypical. Like, it's just funny to me that it's just they don't have the culinary background, right? And I think where Dog
Right.
Haus shines is we are created by people that are very into food. That was the goal from day one. We use King's Hawaiian rolls. We do all these things that are a little different, and we really focus on quality. Like Creekstone Farms is our meat provider. Let's say no antibiotics. Like it's not a joke here. Like we talk about it, but we need to talk more about it because I think the today's guests, especially the younger ones, they care about those things. They care about the environment, the planet, where things are sourced. They Chipotle is for what they are. They've done that job of like, hey, we're selling you something better. Is it really? I don't know, but they talk about it, right? So we
Right.
kind of we're leaning into that as well. Like let's put it out there what we're doing because you are paying for that quality. And I think from what I've heard from our team, only being here 5 or 6 months, in the past, it's like, how do you get someone to pay $8 for a hot dog when Costco sells for $1.50? So that's a
Right.
unique challenge for us. But it's like, how do we do that with high quality ingredients, telling people about the ingredients, making these exotic builds and things that look different? It's not just a hot dog, and that once you see it. So that's our job to like
Sure.
get in front of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the approach there. And so you're really zeroing in on the quality of product. That's not a different story. I mean, everybody thinks, well, I won't say everyone, that's blanket, right? So many people think that their food is quote unquote the best.
Right.
But I think what you started to unpack is reasons to believe why it has a better flavor profile. Those King's Hawaiian buns, the quality of the product, and
Yep.
how you're putting it together. And I think that culminates to give the market reasons to not just acknowledge but believe. And you're right. What does Mr. Beast bring to that table? So one thing that he has that even y'all don't have is a loudspeaker.
Mhm.
You guys have to pay for that, right? So you have to go out
Right.
there, you have to put paid media together. You have to get the, influencers. God forbid I say that word. God, I hate that word so much. But you have to get influencers to go out there and also add gravitas to those claims because no one's going to believe it coming from the brand's mouth. But once the word is out and you've brought someone through that early funnel using marketing speak to a point where they want to try with Mr. Beast or less with little substance. With Barstool, I'm actually not familiar with their brand. Their brands. I know Barstool Sports, but not their virtual brands. But I'd have to imagine Dave Portnoy does have a pretty good stranglehold on pizza, and I would say he may have a better stranglehold on pizza than many other pizza people out there, just
Yeah.
because of that series. I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah.
Well, what's funny, that brand, they weren't doing pizza. It was wings.
Okay, great. Yeah, so like, why not do pizza?
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
like,
Yeah, it's one of those things, dude. It's like to take it away from virtual for a second, just to talk about this. Like Dobrik, Dobrik has a pizza shop now here on Sunset, right? No one's going there for the quality of the pizza. Watch any review. I saw one last week with Portnoy testing it, and he's like, "I know you're my boy, but dude," and he was really honest. Like, I don't think
yeah,
I'd eat this again, and it was like very interesting. And what we're seeing with that is like, yeah, the fame carries it so far, but it's like with any brand, yeah, you want to open big. Those are all going to open big because they do have that megaphone and they can blast that message out. Hey, great, but are people buying it again? You know what I mean? That's
right.
all that I care about because yeah, you'll have this huge splash. Yeah, you might have millions of people interested, but if you don't deliver the first time, like any brand, people aren't going to go back. So over time, to one of the questions you had asked, like, are they going to die? Are they going to do this? They might not die. Some of them are definitely going to die because people aren't going to
Hmm.
order them after having it once. And then, restaurants are not going to serve them anymore. They're just going to say, you know what, that one doesn't work. We're just not seeing any orders. So why are we doing it? And I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to take time, but I think even though it's cliche, that quality piece matters, and especially in delivery, because you don't want to get something that sucks or that you waited now it's not good, or all those things matter on delivery in a major way. So yeah, they have the fame and they can say, hey, here's this virtual brand. I didn't have to do anything. I just put my name on it. Here's the burger. If you order from a different Mr. Beast, did you know that there is no standard. Like the meat quality doesn't matter to them. They say, here's the build, but they don't care what meat you're using. They don't care what condiments. It's just, yeah, you use ketchup, you use mustard, you use this meat. So every time you have it, it could be a different experience depending on where you get it. That's not really what people look for in brands, in my opinion. So another advantage for someone like us who
Yeah.
does have that standard, and you know what you're getting every time with us. So
Yeah, I think there's like this misconception from folks that are either novices to the industry or play on a lower scale. I think that's a nice way of saying it.
yeah,
Where those things don't matter, and it's like make it as cheap as possible, maximize the profitability, get the money and go. But I think now more than ever, the delivery game has changed it. I mean, you're paying a lot of money,
yes,
for something that would otherwise be very inexpensive. Like if I got that same Mr. Beast burger, let's say, at a park out of a truck,
yeah.
and it was different than the one I'm used to. Like I probably wouldn't care too much. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, it's got the things, that's fine. But after I've paid for the fees and the delivery fees, and I have to tip the guy,
Yep.
I'm paying more for all that than I am the actual product. And that thing comes back tasting like garbage. I mean, that's horrible.
Highly disappointing, right? Like when that
Yeah.
happens, you're just like, and it leads to in the delivery game, it's like, I feel like a lot of people just probably have a few favorites. You know what I mean? They can trust it. They know what they're going to get, even if they're like, oh, I'm not hungry for Chipotle today. But if that bowl comes, it's going to be what you want pretty much. And it's the same thing every time, right? But
Yeah.
for others, it's like if I have to do trial, and especially with a food like a hamburger, not the best, situation for traveling, obviously. Fries, same thing. Like they're going to get not as good. Advantage for us, tots, right? Tots last longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like little things like that where it's like we're not going to lean in to fries the way we set up our virtual menus. Like tots are going to be number one. Just trying to think in those ways where it's like what does the guest want and need, and then try to outthink them, if that makes sense, and say, what are we going to deliver that they don't know they want? Or can we set it up in a way where it's like they're sort of falling where we say this is the best of our menu because we know it's going to take 20 or 30 minutes to get to you. So maybe avoid this, go with this, right? You're still going to get great flavor, all that. But that's where we're at now too, is really just engineering that menu or the menus and trying to get them to that place. And we're also playing with menu positioning. So like on our virtual brands, what's the order on the DSPs versus our own site? Does it matter? How does it work? What are the sales differences? All these things. We're trying to just get a lot of data right now and push that forward. And then the other piece, Kitchen United, I mentioned, they are a partner, but they're actually building an OS for us that will live on top of Toast, where we'll have multi-brand ordering. And with that, in the same basket, meaning multi-brand loyalty, which is really exciting for us because if you're a Dog Haus user or fan and you've ordered and we have your history, we know what you're doing, but you've never tried Badass Breakfast Burritos, here's an email. You got to try this. Here's your discount. Whatever that is. It's like tying all that together is really exciting because now people really know that the brands are connected in that way. And they're like, oh, I like the Dog Haus quality. I'll probably like, Bad Mother Clucka. I'll probably like Badass Breakfast Burrito. That looks amazing. So we'll be able to tie that together. So that kind of is going to change our whole marketing strategy once that's ready to go this year. And then on my side, I'm obviously, me, but I push for digital. I have a partnership with Hyperlocology. We're already talking about dialing into that direct ordering once this KU environment's ready, because every marketing piece is going to go direct orders, collect the data, retarget, find lookalikes. The whole thing is going to be dialed in a way that this brand's never had it before. So we're really excited about that, because in conjunction with this KU thing, with Hyperlocology's help, it's like we're going to drive transactions direct for our own ordering, and then we'll get away from fees that way. We'll be able to subsidize the order fee or, the delivery fee through our partners, but it's still cheaper than giving them 20, 25, whatever, these guys have signed up for in the past. So that's really exciting. And that's just going to open up a new world. And I know you talk about this probably a lot on these pods or just in your career, but like the data piece, I think restaurants still struggle with it because we don't have a data analyst on our team, but we know we need that data. We need to take that data and then use it in ways that will help us grow our brand or grow repeat business or grow, like whatever that thing is, but we need to harness the data and start using it. So that's been a huge goal for this year as well.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, everything is providing data these days, but rare is the case that you find folks that really know how to use it. So
Right.
my friend Tammy Billings, she started Aben, and Aben's been pretty great to look
Hmm.
at from outside looking in as far as harnessing some of that sales data and getting really nuanced with when people are buying, when people are making buying decisions. Um, and hopefully I'll get her on the podcast here soon. But that's why here at Vigor slash Pavone, we have a data science team for that very reason. Like it's like we know you have data, but what are you doing? What story are you excavating from that data that can help you make decisions on things like buying behaviors, on things like where not just profitability, but how can you maximize that profitability? How can you maximize order counts and order averages?
Definitely.
But a lot of it just comes from the gut. So
Yeah.
that's really troubling. Now, what one side of this that really I haven't really dove into it with anyone, but it's really intriguing to me. And since you're kind of on the front lines here, is the innovations in packaging. So you mentioned the French fry game, which I mean, anybody that works with French fries, we know it. Just the sweating makes them suck,
Yeah.
and it's really tough to keep a well balanced, crisp to tooth balance in there. But what
Crisp to tooth.
innovations?
Love it.
Crisp the tooth.
Crisp
Yeah,
to
it's really
tooth.
important. I'm borrowing tooth from the pasta world, but yeah, it's what are you seeing as far as innovations, and then what kind of impact do you think that's having on the bottom line? Because as we know, innovations when they first come out cost more because it takes a while for the demand to catch up with the supply and therefore drive prices down.
It's funny. We're in the middle of packaging. Like we're figuring out what packaging do we want to go with in the near term and the short term. It's like we have some packaging that looks nice. With hot dogs, it's a little different. So it's like a tray, and then you slide it into a box, and it keeps it well. But is it hot enough? It's cardboard. It's
Right.
not ideal, right? Fries, same thing. Like we don't have great fry packaging solutions right now here, but at other brands I worked for, like Halal Guys, they solved it. If you've seen their fry package, it's pretty awesome. It's got holes in it, holds well, the lid shuts. Like I would love for us to go to something like that. But literally, I can't really help you with this because we're in the middle of like trying to figure this out. We've got our designers working on the look and feel, but as the actual products, it's like we're taking a look at everything. We're probably like a lot of brands, like, okay, what for our brand, what makes the most sense? Like our
Yeah.
burgers are pretty big, they're square, right? But they're Hawaiian rolls, so you got to think through that. How does that work, right? Like there's a lot here where we things you don't have to worry about at other brands. We sell corn dogs. Like, how do you get a corn dog hot to someone in the best way so it doesn't break while it's on the way? There's things like
Right.
that. So we're really in the middle of it right now, trying to figure it out, just like everybody. But to your point, it is a huge, I wouldn't say concern, but it's like we need to solve it just like everybody else because we do want to get that quality product to you hot and crisp to tooth.
Yeah. It's I think obviously there's innovations that happen with the packaging too, but I wonder what can these DSPs, delivery service providers, for those that don't know, what can they do to help out? Like I'm surprised we don't have modular solutions that have both hot and cold that can be put into vehicles. Because then that would make our jobs a little bit easier when we're thinking about innovating. And that, hey, we know the hot side is going to be kept at 140, 160,
Yeah.
whatever that temperature is. But if you're going to provide delivery, I think the means of transportation is only one facet. Like, you're talking about food, and part of that's food safety, which
Yeah.
is really tough.
Yeah, I remember, a few years ago when it was really happening, everyone was looking for stickers. Like, how do I seal my bag? Because before that, we didn't even do that, right? You might tie it,
Right?
you might do whatever. It's like, I got to seal it to make sure that, a driver doesn't accidentally grab some fries out of it or whatever, like, of course, the
Yeah.
horror stories, but it's true, you need all that. So I feel like that part of it, was COVID really pushed a lot of, hey, we got to figure out this to go packaging. And like you said, when I was at Ginia, when I started at Ginia, 8 stores even had delivery, even had online ordering.
Mm,
8, right? We had to build it in 2 months. We had to set it up. We needed to talk to DSPs. Like a lot of our stores didn't even do third party at Ginia because they didn't
yeah.
need to. You know what I'm saying? Like they made
Well,
enough
soup's a
money.
whole nother level, man. Like,
Yeah, and they were just like, "We're good, we're good." So I know that really from the front lines of at Ginia, we had to figure that out within a month or two and really get it going, negotiate the contracts, set it all up with all our franchisees, make sure they're on board, make sure they know how to execute, change the packaging. We actually set
Right.
up some stickers at Jinya that named the which bowl of ramen you get, which sounds so like, yeah, of course you should do that. No, they were using a grease pencil for years because they didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
orders. So like, sure, we'll just write. Then stickers became mandatory. We needed it. It helped the guest immensely because you're getting 4 bowls if you're ordering 2 ramens, soup toppings. Knowing which is which is huge, and especially for
Right.
someone who might not order ramen a lot. So we saw our guest satisfaction go way up once we started doing that. We saw it on reviews, we saw it everywhere. Like, oh, we love these stickers because now we really know that that's ours. If we have a multiple order, so little things like that go a long way. But I just think the packaging experience is very top of mind here, and we're trying to solve that this year because we
Right.
know it's got to be done, especially across our brands. Like we when they started the brands, it was right when COVID started. So like the bag, they're like, let's do it cheap. Here's a stamp of the logo. So literally, we've got people at the restaurants stamping bags, badass breakfast burritos, and that was our packaging. Now we're like, let's
Right.
take it up a level. We could license this brand potentially to another brand. We got to make sure we have everything dialed in, so we're working through it. But it's all important, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think that's the thing. There's like no one thing that should just be painted over. But I do like the idea. I mean, especially when you're starting something up, um, a lot of places want to do it perfect, but perfect is undefined because you don't really know what people are going to be buying and what kind of volume. And so, we're big proponents of like get the things set that for sure are
Right.
borderline immovable, but also be ready for that evolution. Be ready to learn and iterate quickly. And if you were in Silicon Valley, God, I hate to say this now, considering the things with the banks, but like fail fast.
Yep.
And the whole idea of failing fast is learn what's not working, adjust, iterate, try something new until you get the right thing, rather than trying to turn every knob perfectly and wait for the perfect moment because there is no such thing. How much of that are you guys employing? How much of that mentality are you putting to use when you think about these innovations?
We definitely are not on like packaging per se, even though we were talking about that, but like happy hour, let's say. We've got different franchisees in different parts of the country, and some might say, hey, we need X on our happy hour menu because this local audience will react. And for the longest time, and this is every brand, but they're like, no, we have our set thing here. We're sticking with this, even though it might help you there. We don't have the bandwidth to create this for you, one-off style. Like every brand goes through that. We've been going through that, but how we're solving for it is we're allowing certain franchisees to try things. We're setting up committees where it's like there's a packaging committee, let's say. There's a happy hour committee. There's all these committees with like maybe 4 to 5 franchise partners, but like it's the ones that's their specialty, let's say. So the guy that sells a ton of delivery, we want him on the packaging because he's going to know, right? He's selling the most. So that's how we've tried to kind of set this up, and we'll let them try things. Then we'll come back together and say, how's that working for you? How has that impacted sales? How has that impacted your costs, et cetera? And then we'll sort of keep the ball rolling, and we'll say, all right, we're going to implement this now everywhere. Take these learnings. This was the best thing because we are we're the kind of people that, the best idea wins, not my idea. It's just, we want
Sure.
the best idea. We don't care where it comes from. So we're really into that now. This year we've honed in on these committees. And I think, even though I wasn't here, what I've learned from this brand is communication, because when COVID happened, franchisees were freaking out. They didn't have any of the virtual brands. They only had Dog Haus. They made the decision the first week when everything shut down, hey, let's turn them on. Let's go. And it was a complete leap of faith because we didn't know how we were going to do it. We didn't know how to do 6 brands at the same time, but like worked our way through, had the partners. The partners had our backs, meaning our founders, but then franchisees every week, they had a weekly call. How's it going? Here's what we're learning, kind of triaged our team. So it's like, you're an expert in delivery, you're an expert in design, you're an expert in this. And we would bring things to the table every week as it was happening. So like, hey, Panera Bread's doing this and it's working for them. And just letting our franchisees know, like, this is what's out here. Everyone kind of became an expert in a certain piece of this, and then we just would communicate and over communicate. And I think that really helped this brand survive it. Their sales actually came out higher because when they launched the virtual brands, they got about a 30% pop. So it really was a smart thing to do at the time. But even though I wasn't here, it's like I've been talking to our team. It's like, that's how we attacked it. Just everyone kind of became an expert. Everyone would talk, over communicate. And it really, I found in my career, communication in general, the most important to franchisees, to operations for me being a marketer. Early in my early days, like Baja Fresh, I just remember going there and like ops didn't talk to marketing, or at least they were
Right.
always at odds. They might have talked and it was friendly in the hallway, but when it came to decisions, everybody's at odds and no one's on the same page. That's how it was there. From that job, I really took that to heart and said, look, the only way as a marketer I'm going to get things done are lockstep with ops, right? Either good cop, bad cop, or what do they need from me to help them? And then they'll help me, you know? So I've
That's right.
always tried to attack it that way in my career, but it's coming from a place where it was not like that. And it was very obvious and it could have been way better. So I always just tried to take that, you know, as I moved on in my career.
It's a good lesson learned.
For sure.
I would say one idea to bring to the table for you guys, this one's free, by the way, is remove the word committee. And I think you should take inspiration from imperialist Britain and change it to ministry. So
Okay.
the Ministry of Packaging Innovation, like now that's something you want to put on your resume.
I love that. I'm going to put that on my LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah. I am the leader of the Ministry of Amazing Marketing Solutions.
There you go, man. You know.
I love it. Well, so you're kind of at the forefront of what's going on in the virtual space. And, you know, it amazes me every month as I see more and more brands kind of come. And I think some are dying off, some slower than others, some quicker than I expected. What do you think is next up for this massive digital shift and virtual brands? And do you think we're going to start to see a convergence of virtual concepts that do so well that they actually find a place in brick and mortar? What's the big forecast from Senior Bartek?
I think that's going to happen. I think what will happen, and it depends if, you know, maybe at a CEO level, if they'll let it happen. But I think that licensing brands that are popular is going to become a thing. I think we're obviously on the forefront of that now, talking to some people. I can't talk about who, but like there's some things where it could be 1,000 locations and it could be tomorrow. So if that happens, Badass Breakfast Burrito, we become a burrito brand, right? Overnight, which is kind of scary, but our founding partners are talking about it already. Like, you know what that means? Like that's 1,000 locations where we would do everything. We would do all the marketing, we would do the packaging, all this. So we're already preparing for that. But I really do see that. I think a lot of the fly by night celebrity led brands will go away. I mean, it's going to happen because of quality control, I feel, more than anything.
Right.
Also in that world, you know, whenever you're dealing with celebrity, it could be here today, gone tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Mariah Carey has staying power and she's probably not going anywhere, but like, are people going to care about Mario Lopez if he's not on that show anymore? Or Mr. Beast, he could have who was the other guy online that said something and then he was just erased like the next day, right? Like that kind of thing happens. And then it's like maybe Mr. Beast goes away, he slips up and says one wrong thing, all of a sudden he's banned or whatever, right? So I just feel like those type of brands aren't here for the long haul. I feel like if it's chef driven or brand driven and you know that food, that's where it's going to be. I think, you know, who does a great job, like Fuku, you know what I mean? Like it's, you know what you're getting from Chang, you know what I mean? Like Chang's going to kill it. So, I just think it's more chef driven, more brand driven. It's more about story. You know how it is with the youth. You have a kid now. They care about the planet. They care about, maybe not yours, not old enough to care about the bathroom and food. But you know what I mean? Just the way the world is going, I feel like the real stories are more important than ever. You know what I mean? Telling your real background, telling your real history, and then having people buy into that by saying, you know what? I like that too, or I'm that way too, and I can buy into that. And I see where these guys are coming from, or I see where these ladies, they started in their kitchen and they did this whole thing, and now they have this brand. Like, I love stories like that. Even out here, I mean, I don't know if you've been out here in a little bit, but we've got this brand Home State, which you may have heard of. It's a woman from Texas, but she does breakfast tacos and she makes queso. And she's a triplet, so she has two sisters, but it's literally like just, they started here, they brought these recipes here, and now I think they have 6 or 7 locations, but it's a brand I love because it's like the vibe, the music, they're making tortillas by hand, great food. You know, it's just like they're doing a great job, and it's the kind of brand that could blow up. And that's what you want. You know what I mean? They have a story, they're in the community, they do donations, they work with music artists to do their, you know, foundational kind of things. It's just like, that's the kind of brand I want to be a part of. I don't feel bad spending my money there because I know that she's you know, doing it in the community and really doing a great job. So I think brands like that are what people will focus on in the future, and especially the youth. I think as we grow, you know, we're old, We don't,
Yeah.
we like what we
It's a
like,
bummer,
but like
dude.
these young kids are the
Yeah.
future, obviously, but they're the ones that are like, what do they stand for? And that matters, which back when I went to Burger King, you know what I'm saying? I didn't care what the
Yeah.
politics were or whatever. I went to these restaurants. I didn't care. Now it's just it's a cultural change. And I think those that are equipped to deal with that, or at least have a story or bring something to the table, are going to be in a better position than those that don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think patrons, you're tapping into it outside of the philanthropy and the political statements and stuff like that. I think those are all surface level outputs from a deeper need. And I think that need is to feel like a sense of honesty and a sense of real, like you mentioned with Home State. Like, I just want to feel like it's real. I want to feel like I'm not lining the pockets of some fat cat, Wall Street, blah, blah, blah. And you can go down that whole, rabbit hole. But only because you brought her up. I'm going to bring us back to that for 1 second. If Mariah Carey opens up a Christmas cookies brand, I'm buying them.
Yeah.
I'm buying them like a lot.
You know
like,
why?
I just think on principle.
She knows Christmas probably better than anybody.
Yeah. And she doesn't want a lot for Christmas. She only wants you and these delicious cookies.
Yes.
That idea is copywritten. If you do decide, anyone listening, to connect with Mariah, Miss Carey, and I expect to be called. I want royalties, and I think it's a brilliant idea in the making. So last time we had you on, we asked you what your one final meal would be. I think it'd be kind of unfair to do that again.
Yeah.
So why don't we water that down a little bit and ask you, what is your favorite meal right now, or your favorite place to eat? What are you loving the most? You can't say anything from Dog Haus because that's obvious.
Yeah. No. You may have been to this spot, but Javier's, that brand. I think there's about 6 of them. Vegas, here,
Yeah.
a couple places. Dude, I love their food. I love that whole menu. I could go there and try something different 30 days in a row and be satisfied every time. I mean, it's just an amazing experience. So for fine dining Mexican food,
Yeah,
on the coast, like going down there, it's one of my favorite things to do. And also the people watching, because you could imagine Newport Coast, like who's going there, and it's just hilarious for someone like me. I'm just like, I love it. So I just like the people watching. I love the food. They've got an amazing bar, like just attention to detail with Javier himself. I have a friend that actually, it's a random ass story, but maybe 10 years ago, the first time I went, he played on Javier's basketball team. They were in this like rec league. So he knew him. So we would go there, my wife and I and a couple friends, and Javier's there. He comes to the table, and I had never been there. So I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, is it like this every time? It's like, no, because my friend was with us that knows him, but he's bringing out quesadillas, doing the whole thing. It was just like such a nice time. But that was the first time I went. And then ever since, I was just like, love the brand, the attention to detail, the quality, like that's the kind of brands I want to work for or be a part of. So I would say Javier's, and there's nothing on that menu I wouldn't eat, but the mole enchiladas are killer. Ooh. So yeah,
that sounds killer, man. Yeah. Next time I'm around one, maybe it's Vegas for a trade show, or maybe I get out there to the LA area again. Yeah. We'll have to go. Look, man, thanks for being so generous with your time and your insights and your ideas. It's great having you on again. And hope to connect with you real soon.
Anytime, buddy. Thank you.
If you love what we served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram and LinkedIn. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor, a Pavone Group company. Audio and post-production provided by Zencastr and the Pavone Group team. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts.